I know I've been telling you how warm it is here. I know I've been telling you we got the Gulf Stream right by here in Virginia Beach, and I've just told everybody in the Northeast to move. I may have to take some of it back because we had a big snow here in Virginia Beach. And here's some beauty shots in front of our studio and out on the campus of Regent University. And just to see how pretty it is, really with the snow, it's been lovely. Look at that. And this is the place right there where we're broadcasting from at this moment. And there is the campus, and there's the eternal flame in front of our headquarters. And you still ought to come, snow or no snow, but it does get warmer. But we can't exactly brag about the snow here because Boston, different story. They call it Snowmageddon. They've had over 100 inches of snow in Boston, and that city isn't alone. And now, all the way from the Northeast to Texas, we're getting, what do they call it? Siberian Express is running through. Gary Lane has that story.
Old Man Winter just keeps on coming. A mix of sleet, freezing rain, and snow fell from northern Texas through the Gulf Coast and southeast. Up to 10 inches of snow fell in parts of Virginia. The wintry weather caused tens of thousands of power outages, burst water pipes, and accidents. In Maine, a snow squall caused a 70-car pileup on I-95 between Newport and Bangor. Wayne Trafton told a passenger in his vehicle they were going to crash.
We were down to probably 25 or 30 miles an hour when I hit the minivan, and I just told him to brace himself, and we collided with a minivan that was packed, that had crashed into a pickup truck.
Remarkably, no one was killed, but more than a dozen people were rushed to the hospital. The northbound lanes of the highway were closed down for 5 hours. While Boston is still digging out from a record 100 inches of snow this winter, in nearby New Hampshire, Drew Mullins of Petersboro says he's glad he's still alive. He was raking heavy snow from the roof of his house because he didn't want the roof to collapse. That's when the avalanche came.
I was thinking about my wife and my daughter and thinking that I'm not going out this way.
The rushing snow carried him off the roof and buried him in a snowbank. His wife Deanna came to his rescue.
I tried to dig him out as best I could, with my bare hands.
But she finally got him out with help from their daughters. And a rare experience in the deep south, enough snow to enjoy sledding down a hill in Alabama. Here at CBN Center in Virginia Beach, probably about 4 inches of snow. Right now we're getting a little freezing rain. But this is the second most significant snowfall that we've had in the last week. Schools are closed today. Kids are likely to have much more fun this time because this is a packing snow. It's much better for making snowballs and snowmen. Most people are just trying to make the best of it. Motorcycling in the snow may be a challenge for this Alabama man, but at least he can make a biker snowman. Gary Lane, CBN News.
Hey, it's fun. I think snow, Boston is not fun anymore. It's pretty horrible. Hey, by the way, we've gotten a number of letters. So where's Terry? Terry's had sort of a virus, and she's out this week. She'll be back next week. And Wendy is on assignment, covering a very interesting story about a great man who died recently, and we'll be telling you about that next week. Well, in other news, supporters of the radical Islamic group ISIS have been arrested here in the United States. And guess what they said they were going to do? They want to kill President Obama, who we understand is their friend. John Jessup has that story from the CBN newsroom. Here's John.
Pat, 3 Brooklyn men have been arrested and accused of trying to join ISIS to help murder Americans. And prosecutors say one suspect had plans to bomb New York. Mark Martin has the story.
The 3 suspects appeared in New York and Florida. They're accused of plotting to join the terror group ISIS and kill Americans, including President Obama. They're charged with conspiring to support ISIS.
This is real. This is the concern about the lone wolf inspired to act without ever going to the Middle East.
Police arrested one of the men at JFK Airport. Police and the FBI say he was about to head to Syria. Defense attorney Adam Perlmutter says everyone involved needs to take a step back.
There's just the rush to prosecution, to arrest, and to conviction. And I just remind everybody today that the presumption of innocence is still the law of the land in America.
The 3 men live in Brooklyn but are from Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan. The FBI began their investigation after one of the suspects, 24-year-old Abdurasul Jurabov, allegedly posted on an ISIS website back in August. "I am in USA now, but is it possible to commit ourselves as dedicated martyrs anyway while here? To shoot Obama and then get shot ourselves, will it do?"
Thank God we will never know if they really were intent on committing acts of terror or were just talking.
Investigators claim killing police, FBI agents, and bombing Coney Island were plans discussed by the suspects. The FBI believes their plans were very preliminary, but they say this backs up the growing concerns over the reach of the terror group. The FBI director says the agency has current investigations into homegrown radicals in every state, and a portion of them are ISIS supporters. The arrests are just the latest examples of the growing dangers of lone wolf terrorists inspired by ISIS, and the possibility that more such terrorists could try attacks in the future. Mark Martin, CBN News.
The FBI says more than 20 people in just the past year have been arrested trying to fly from the U.S. to join ISIS. The number of Christians kidnapped by ISIS in Syria has risen to 220 in the past 3 days, according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. And the Syrian Democratic Organization says ISIS raided 33 Assyrian villages, picking up as many as 300 people along the way. Right now, officials can't confirm the exact number of hostages, but both humanitarian organizations have confirmed reports that ISIS has been taking the Syrian Christians from a chain of villages over the last several days. Pat?
It's what will happen to those Christians, by the way. The men will be slaughtered. They'll be beheaded. The women will be sold as sex slaves. It is one of the most ghastly things. And yet we have a president who will not name them. He refuses to say Islamic terror. He has all these conferences and meetings, never says it. So my friend Rudy Giuliani, who was a powerful mayor of New York and a crusading crime fighter and all the rest of it, he said, "I don't think Obama loves America." Well, there was a poll, I think it was a YouGov or something, one of those smaller organizations had a poll, and they said, "What about it? Do you think he loves America?" 47% of the people who took that poll said, "We're not sure that he loves America." Kind of bad. And Mort Zuckerman, who's the publisher of U.S. News and World Report, and I believe his organization owns the Daily News in New York, he said, Obama's been asleep. He said he's been on these international things, he's been asleep. He goes against Israel. He doesn't do anything about what's going on in Syria. He allows ISIS to come back and take over Iraq. We've got a problem in Yemen, and he goes down the list of all these things, and he says the president's like asleep at the switch. And he said, I just wish we had somebody who was actively engaged in foreign policy. Well, one of the big foreign policy problems we're dealing with right now is our most staunch ally in the Middle East. Now, you see, the Israeli prime minister, it's not a question of a settlement. It's not a question of an apartment project in Jerusalem. It's a question of the survival of that state. If the Iranians get nukes, they have vowed that they will wipe Israel off the map. So he is facing another Holocaust like what happened under Hitler. And John, you can tell us more about his upcoming visit.
Well, Pat, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warns that major world powers have given up on trying to stop Iran from developing nuclear weapons. U.S. and Iranian officials have reported progress in nuclear negotiations on a deal that would clamp down on Tehran's nuclear activities for at least 10 years, then slowly ease restrictions. But Netanyahu says he cannot accept a nuclear Iran and warns it would be dangerous for the entire world.
They might accept this, but I am not willing to accept this. As Prime Minister, I am responsible for the security of the country and the security of Israel's citizens. I must do everything I can to express our objection and warn of the dangers, not just for us, but also to our neighbors and the entire world, of Iran arming itself with nuclear weapons.
And Pat, Netanyahu is scheduled to address Congress next week.
The amazing thing is that Susan Rice, who's not exactly known for her accuracy, has come out and said how unhelpful it was, the fact that he has, quote, bypassed the White House. Well, the Congress has a perfect right to have whoever wants to speak, and if it's a matter of international significance. So some of the senators and congressmen have avoided. Joe Biden is conveniently out of town. John Kerry is going to be off someplace, and some of the others will not show up. Well, if the Democrats turn on the Jews in America, the Jewish businessmen, the Jewish, what's called the Israeli lobby, has been strong supporters of Democrats. They have not been Republican supporters, they've supported Democrats. So if the Democrats in Congress turn their back on the Prime Minister of Israel, it will have profound political implications coming up into the next election. John?
Pat, here at home, U.S. regulators are moving toward tougher rules for internet providers. Today, the FCC is set to approve a plan that puts the internet under the same regulations as the telephone under a law that passed in 1934. Supporters say the government needs to make sure internet companies can't slow down web traffic by giving priority to big websites. Critics aren't buying it. They say net neutrality could morph into heavy-handed government interference. Gordon Krovitz of the Wall Street Journal recently wrote that under the 1934 law, almost all websites and apps would be subject to regulation. Some Republicans want to know if the Obama White House improperly influenced the FCC's plan on net neutrality. The case over the regulations could be tied up in the courts for years. And Pat, a lot of interest on this topic, more than 4 million public comments on the issue. That's the largest number ever on a proposed rule.
The internet is a marvel of the world. It is free, and think how many businesses have been spawned on the internet. Think how much web traffic there is. Think how much business goes on. Think of all the conveniences that we have now as consumers, and think of the constant improvement, the speeds and the things that are being done to improve the service that we have on the internet. Now they're going to treat it like it's a water company or an electric utility with 1934 regulation. The Obama people, you don't understand, ladies and gentlemen, until you realize the socialist agenda is to take control of everything. They can't, they've got their hands on health care and they're about to ruin it. Now they want to ruin the internet. And I don't know what we can do to stop it, but Wheeler, who's the head of the FCC, has refused to testify to Congress. He has defied them. He's going to do what he's going to do, and don't ask me about it. So that's what they're saying. I don't want to live under a dictatorship. This is the land of the free and the home of the brave. Let's fight for it. If you don't stand up and say something, they're going to run over you like a steamroller. That's what's going on. I mean, our liberties are being eroded every single day that those guys are up there in Washington doing what they do.
An American missionary who contracted Ebola 6 months ago in Liberia has recovered and is heading back to the West African nation. Nancy Wright-Bull and her husband David told CBN News they feel led to return and do all they can to be the hands and feet of Jesus. The Wright-Bulls work with SIM, Serving in Mission, an international mission organization. Nancy contracted Ebola last summer when she was helping to disinfect doctors and instruments used in the crisis. The World Health Organization reports the Ebola epidemic has killed close to 4,000 Liberians. And in Nigeria, the armed men who abducted an American missionary this week are demanding a ransom of nearly $300,000. Phyllis Sorter was taken from her Christian school compound in the central part of the country. Nigerian police urged the family not to negotiate with the abductors, expressing confidence that Sorter would be found. Friends and family describe Sorter as a visionary involved in multiple projects that help the Nigerian people. Well, you can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com.